Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak on the Joint Standing Committee on Treaties Report 202, a review of the Australia-India Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. Deputy Speaker, the potential of the Australia-India relationship is enormous. On paper, our two countries are highly compatible. Two young nations, both born in the 20th century, common heritage, geographically proximate, shared democratic values, similar sporting passions. But building and maintaining relationships isn't easy. And the uncomfortable fact that we have to face in our relationship with India is that for most of our history, our relationship hasn't fully realised the potential or the high expectations we had for it. Our trade was lower than expected, and our investment was even lower. For most of the last 75 years of our joint relationship, India was the 20th trade partner with Australia, down from the third biggest trade partner to Australia in the first 100 years of our relationship before Indian independence. Almost every Australian Prime Minister, from Menzies to Gillard, saw huge promise in the relationship but just couldn't quite realise it. A report to the Hawke government said that Australia's relationship with India was, and I quote, distant but cordial. In the Howard government, Foreign Minister Alexander Downer described the relationship as sporadic and insubstantial. Deputy Speaker, I'm relieved to say that today we are at a turning point in this relationship. After decades of unrealised potential, the Australia-India relationship is finally getting the attention and care that it needs to lift off. And the relationship has never been in a better place. This year we have 9 ministerial visits from India. The Prime Minister is in India right now, along with a trade delegation, and Prime Minister Modi is coming to Australia for the Quad in May. It's true to say that in the 76 years of our formal diplomatic relationship, no year has been a stronger one for our relationship than this year. But maintaining relationships isn't easy, and it takes more than common values and international trips and good diplomatic relations to enable a lift-off in our economic relationship. In the case of India, we've had historical challenges. Our economies were never as complementary with each other as Australia's economic relationship was with many East Asian countries. East Asian countries that took the export-oriented growth model, required a lot of raw material inputs and were producing a lot of manufactured outputs. Incredibly complementary to Australia's economy, which imports a lot of manufactured goods and exports a lot of commodities. India took a different economic pathway. They took a pathway of economic self-reliance, a pathway that led it to focus on its domestic capability and erect high protectionist barriers around its economy. One of the consequences of that was a weak economic relationship between Australia and India. And that weak economic relationship was the missing ballast in our bilateral relationship. All the goodwill, all the high-level visits, all the diplomatic rhetoric couldn't make up for the fundamental lack of mutual economic interests. In his 1973 speech in New Delhi, Gough Whitlam said, "There is something missing in recent years in the recent relationship between the two countries." Well, Deputy Speaker, commerce was the missing piece. But today we're at a turning point, not only because of the ministerial visits, not only because of the concrete attempts, diplomatic attempts to improve relations, but because of significant advances in our economic engagement. And the Australia-India Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement is one of those steps. Entering into force last December, the Australian-Indian ECTA and further tariff cut on the 1st of January 2023 has meant that around 85% of Australia's exports to India now enter duty-free. And in its first month, Australian businesses claimed ECTA's lower tariff rates on over $2.5 billion worth of exports. And it's no surprise that Australian businesses have been keen to take advantage of these outcomes. Our top lamb exporter, Mulwarra Export from New South Wales, will benefit from the elimination of India's 30% tariff on importing lamb. Our fresh rock, lobster and wool exports will benefit from an immediate elimination of tariffs. And in the services sector, exporters like Global Study Partners will capitalise on the predictability of ECTA service outcomes, allowing them to expand into India with added certainty. The Australia-Indian ECTA is often described as an early harvest. And that's right, that's a fair description. ECTA is a step in the right direction to give the Australia-India relationship what it needs to ferment and grow. But compared to other trade agreements signed by Australia, ECTA is not as comprehensive in scope, not as comprehensive in coverage, and as a result, the outcomes of ECTA alone fall far short of the changes needed to take this relationship to the next level in the 21st century. And that's why it gives me great confidence to see that negotiations are now underway for a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement. So that beneath the diplomatic visits and rhetoric, the Australian government is getting to work and adopting a long-term approach to realising the potential of this relationship. Deputy Speaker, we're finally adding the missing piece in Australia's relationship with India: commerce.